The cabin lights were dimmed to a soft amber glow, the kind that made the world feel quieter than it really was. Outside the airplane window, the night stretched endlessly, black and calm, as if the sky itself was holding its breath. Ethan Hale sat rigidly in his seat, shoulders squared even though no one was watching. Years of boardrooms and billion-dollar decisions had trained him to sit like this, alert, guarded, in control. Beside him, his little daughter Lily slept curled against his arm, her small chest rising and falling in a steady rhythm. One tiny hand clutched a packet of chocolate chip cookies the flight attendant had given her before takeoff, already half crumpled from sleep. The low hum of the engines blended with quiet murmurs from passengers, but Ethan barely noticed. His mind was elsewhere, wandering places he rarely allowed it to go, memories of Lily's mother, of promises he hadn't kept, of nights when success felt hollow. He glanced down at his daughter, brushing a stray curl from her forehead, and felt that familiar ache tighten his chest. Lily stirred, her eyes blinking open slowly. She looked around the cabin with the solemn awareness children sometimes carried, as if they understood more than adults assumed. Her gaze drifted across the aisle and settled on a woman sitting alone. The woman's coat was thin, her posture folded inward as though she were trying to take up less space. She stared at the seat in front of her, eyes glossy, one hand gripping an old canvas bag like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. Lily sat up a little straighter. "Daddy," she whispered, tugging gently on Ethan's sleeve. "That lady looks really sad." Ethan followed her line of sight. He saw the tired eyes, the stiff shoulders, the quiet way the woman wiped at her cheek when she thought no one noticed. He hesitated, instinctively pulling back into himself. Life had taught him that stepping into someone else's pain could get complicated. Before he could respond, Lily had already unbuckled her seatbelt. "Lily," he started, but she was already standing, clutching the cookie packet in both hands. She walked carefully down the narrow aisle, stopping in front of the woman's seat. The woman looked up, startled, confusion flashing across her face. Lily lifted the packet toward her, her small voice steady but soft. "If I share my cookie," she asked earnestly, "will you stay? You look like you might disappear." The words landed heavily, filling the small space between them. The woman's lips trembled, and for a moment she couldn't speak. Tears welled up and slipped free before she could stop them. "Oh, sweetheart," she whispered, voice breaking. "I'm not going anywhere." She took the cookie with shaking hands, pressing it gently to her chest like it was something precious. Lily smiled, relieved, and climbed into the empty seat beside her as if this had always been the plan. She leaned close, resting her head against the woman's arm. From his seat, Ethan watched the scene unfold, his breath caught somewhere between surprise and emotion he didn't have a name for. The engines continued their steady hum, the plane cutting through the darkness, but something inside him shifted. In that quiet moment, with a single shared cookie and a child's unguarded kindness, the distance between strangers began to disappear. Maya didn't realize how long she had been holding her breath until the little girl's head rested against her arm. The warmth of that small weight felt grounding, almost unreal, like something she might wake up from at any moment. She glanced down at the cookie in her hand, still wrapped, and then at Lily's calm face, so trusting it made her chest ache. It had been months since anyone had looked at her without judgment or expectation. Months since someone had offered her something without asking what it would cost in return. Ethan stood awkwardly in the aisle for a moment, unsure whether to intervene or retreat. "I'm sorry," he finally said, his voice low. "She has a habit of following her heart." Maya looked up at him, her eyes red but sincere, and managed a small smile. "Don't apologize," she said. "I think I needed her more than she needed me." Ethan nodded and returned to his seat, though he didn't look away again. The flight attendant passed by, offering water and blankets. Ethan ordered an extra meal without explanation and slid it across the tray table toward Maya when she hesitated. Hunger tightened her stomach at the smell of warm food, but pride made her pause. Lily noticed immediately. "You should eat," she said seriously. Mommy says food helps when you're sad. That did it. Maya let out a shaky laugh and accepted the tray, whispering a thank you that barely carried over the hum of the plane. As she ate, words began to spill out, soft at first, then steadier. She told Ethan she was a single mom, that her son was staying with a neighbor for a few days while she tried to fix their future. She spoke of a job interview that had been cancelled that very morning, of rent overdue notices folded into her bag, of a city she was flying to with no real plan except hope. Ethan listened without interrupting, without checking his phone, without trying to solve anything. That alone felt like a gift. Lily listened too, her fingers tracing slow circles on the armrest. It's okay to be scared, she said matter-of-factly. Daddy gets scared sometimes. He just doesn't cry. Ethan swallowed hard at the truth of it. Maya looked at him then, really looked, and saw not the tailored suit or calm posture, but a man holding himself together by habit rather than certainty. As the cabin quieted again, Maya's exhaustion caught up with her. Her eyelids drooped, her head tilting slightly. Lily adjusted herself carefully, as if protecting something fragile, and kept her hand on Maya's sleeve. Within minutes, Maya slept, tears drying on her cheeks, her breathing finally deep and even. Ethan watched them both, something loosening in his chest. He realized that power had never made him feel this human, this present. Above the clouds, in a narrow row of seats, 3 lives intersected briefly, but in a way that would leave a mark none of them could yet fully understand. Dawn arrived quietly, a pale ribbon of pink and gold sliding along the edge of the clouds. The cabin lights brightened in gentle stages, and the soft chime of descent stirred sleeping passengers. Maya woke slowly, disoriented at first, then aware of Lily's small hand still resting on her sleeve. For a moment, she forgot where she was, and the fear that usually greeted her morning stayed mercifully silent. She sat up, embarrassed, brushing at her cheeks. "I'm sorry," she whispered, realizing she had slept beside strangers. Ethan shook his head. "You needed the rest," he said simply. There was no pity in his tone, only quiet understanding. Lily yawned widely and smiled up at Maya. "You stayed," she said, pride glowing in her eyes. "I knew you would." The plane began its slow descent, the city emerging beneath them like a promise and a threat all at once. Maya's stomach tightened as reality crept back in, uncertainty, responsibility, the weight of what waited beyond the gate. She folded the cookie wrapper carefully and slipped it into her bag, not wanting to throw it away. It felt wrong to discard something that had meant so much. When the wheels touched the runway, the jolt was gentle, followed by scattered applause. Passengers rose, gathering coats and luggage, returning to their separate lives. Maya hesitated in the aisle, suddenly unsure how to say goodbye. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick. "I don't know what would have happened if your daughter hadn't seen me." Ethan reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a simple card, no company logo, no title. Just his name and a number. "In case you need anything," he said. "Even just someone to talk to." Maya stared at it, overwhelmed, then nodded, unable to trust her voice. Lily wrapped her arms around Maya's waist in a fierce hug. "If you get scared again," she said softly, "just remember someone will share their cookie with you." Tears slipped free as Maya hugged her back, holding on a second longer than necessary, as if storing the feeling for harder days. At the gate, they parted ways. Maya walked toward the exit, shoulders a little straighter than before. She didn't have all the answers, but she carried something new, proof that kindness could arrive without warning, at 30,000 feet, from a child who believed staying was a choice. Ethan watched her disappear into the crowd, then took Lily's hand. As they stepped into the terminal, Lily looked up at him. "Daddy," she asked, "can we help her again someday?" Ethan squeezed her hand, warmth spreading through him in a way success never had. "Yes," he said quietly. "We already have. And that's how it begins."